Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host, and I apologize for the break, but hey, I just got back from India. Went to see my oldest son, Jake. He's been spending this semester in Hyderabad. Got to say it right. Got to roll the R. It's population, the whole area, I don't know. I think it's 8.7 million. I think 7.7 in the city, like 8.7 million in the surrounding area. Big town. So we flew up to Jaipur, Jaipur. Spent a few days up there, seeing the elephants, the camels. Bought some jewelry, got some custom suits made. Ate a lot of good food for super cheap. Rode around in Ubers, super cheap. So I think I like India. Very nice people. It's bittersweet. It's so poor. It's so dirty, so crowded, but the people are so nice and generous. It was a good trip. I will go back. I have a newfound appreciation for the country and for their people. And I used it as some time to think, some time to read. We're going to go over David Ogilvy's Confessions of an Advertising Man. I don't know if I should make this podcast like 1 minute and just say, go get the book, or if this thing should be like 12 hours and just read the whole book twice. I mean, I literally underline just paragraphs on every single page. It's unbelievable. If you don't know David Ogilvy, you will want to go get this book. So he's if you ever watched Mad Men, I think it was AMC. I was watching that years ago. You can stream it on Netflix. I think it's on Netflix. But really liked the show. And it was kind of loosely, sort of almost based on him. Certainly that generation of advertising men on Madison Avenue, the 3 martini lunches, the chain smokers. But those people, I say men because it was mostly men back then, and certainly women were starting to break in, but it was mostly men steering and influencing and almost controlling, what we bought. There were only a couple of mediums, right? Television was just coming in vogue. So you had radio, you had television, and you had newspapers, of course. But they were controlling the ad spend, the creatives that really controlled what people bought. Does Tide really get your clothes a brighter white? But anyway, I digress. So we're going to be covering Mad Men. We're covering David Ogilvy. But, I had that time to really think. I mean, just the one flight, L.A. to Abu Dhabi, was 16 hours going there, 16 and a half, 17 coming back. You fly over Greenland, almost fly over the North Pole, following a great circle. Then a layover, and then over to Hyderabad. Coming back, that flight to Hyderabad was like 3.5. Coming back, it was over 4 hours. Then I had a 9-hour layover. I don't know how I got that booked. Oh my gosh. And then 17 hours back. So got a lot of reading in, watched a couple shows, did some thinking. I'm just in the middle of, I don't know if I'm in the middle. Hopefully I'm at the tail end of this redesigning, reinventing, relaunching, what the Sales Whisperer, probably 3.0 is. Because 1.0 was way back in 2006. Cold calling, doing live events locally, selling a live in-person group sales training and then private coaching, usually in person. By 2008, I started to build a website. I bought Infusionsoft for myself. I got a merchant account, right? Started doing this drip marketing. I started that in 2007 with a local company that built software. It was similar to what Infusionsoft does, but much more rudimentary. So I had already been segmenting my database, segmenting my lists, understanding who the buyers were, who the prospects were, how to stay in touch with them, this drip nurturing, the follow-up sequences, the automation. So I'd spent about a year really working on that, on my own business. And now I'd already been doing that in corporate America. I had embraced technology very early on, working with CRMs and databases like Siebel, Onyx, Salesforce.com I started working with in 2004. I was a power user, though, in just Outlook and even in Salesforce. I was creating my own templates and merge fields when nobody else was doing that. I was using text expanders and shortcuts to make my life more efficient. Back in, I want to say around 2001, and numbers kind of run together. Maybe it was 03, maybe it was 01, somewhere in there. The BlackBerries were all the rage. The huge ones. We say huge now, but like my iPhone 7 Plus is huge, like those BlackBerries were. But people would laugh at you for holding that big BlackBerry up to your head. But I was working with a smaller technology company, and I knew the IT staff, so I had persuaded them to let me get my emails on my BlackBerry. They had to BCC all of my incoming email, so it went to my AT&T email address, okay, that I could set up on my BlackBerry. So things weren't synchronized, right? So when I got back to my desk after traveling, I'd have to manually go and delete or file away any of my emails. But it allowed me to get emails while I was traveling and respond to people. So I was more productive. I was more timely, right, in getting back to leads and even customer requests. So it made me more efficient. It made me more productive. I sold more. When I was laid off in 2004, I was one of a few people in the world that was over quota. But it didn't matter because the company was going under and they don't exist anymore. And I was the youngest sales person on the team. I was the last one hired in 2000, and I was the last one fired. So, hey, I got that going for me. But I tell you that because, I've been into this technology stuff, using technology wisely to become more efficient and make more money. But as I was going through all that, right, so I was getting back to, Sales Whisperer 3.0. So I was doing that for a long time. Then I started doing it for myself. Then I got Infusionsoft, and that became a big part of my business. So I'd say that, so by 2009, roughly, that became the Sales Whisperer 2.0, even though the Sales Whisperer 1.0 was only a couple of years old. And that really grew. That's really what's given me the freedom. Have a love-hate relationship with them, right? How they've evolved since about 2013 has been frustrating. But, the freedom, the residual income I get from that gives me the freedom. I was thinking about this past 12 months. I spent 9 days in Argentina with my son, just bonding, traveling, went to Patagonia, went to the big glacier there. We went up to Mount Fitzroy, went hiking, hung out, drank beers, had fun. When Hurricane Harvey hit, last minute, I decided on that Monday after the storm, it had just passed after sitting there and spinning for days. Monday morning I decided to go to Houston, and Monday night I was on a plane and was able to spend 9 days there helping. And now I just spent 9 days in India. So, the last 12 months, 27 days I've been able to spend doing things that I like and helping. And so now, as soon as I finish recording this, I'm going to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours doing jiu-jitsu. And then I'm going down to San Diego for the SuccessCon conference. So it's given me a lot of freedom. Infusionsoft has, having that residual income. But, now it's like, what's the next phase? I'll keep selling their stuff. I'm selling more HubSpot, selling Entreport, helping people figure out what's right for them. But I think there's even a bigger calling now to rebuild the brand of what the Sales Whisperer is, what Wes Schaefer is, how it relates, how the two relate. So some training programs. People were beating me up yesterday to launch a Sales Whisperer certification program. That's been in the back of my brain for years, honestly. But I've got some meetings set up the next couple of days at SuccessCon, actually, talking with some people that I could partner with, because I just don't want to do everything. So you got to have good people, surround yourself with good people, and then scale it. So that's what's going on here. A little background so you understand where I'm coming from. Why I've been a little slow lately with the podcast. Because I'm still bringing on guests. I've got a couple of good guests scheduled here in the next couple of weeks. But I'm doing these book reviews partly because I want to force myself to get back and reading more and reading some of the old stuff. I got a lot of old stuff I either haven't finished or haven't read in a long time. And you forget these things. And as you evolve and mature, you see things in a different light. Different things click. And you've had that, going to a trainer or maybe a golf coach or whatever. You're like, how come you didn't show me this before? It's like, I did show it to you before. You just weren't ready. They always say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And that's just so true. So even going back to things that I've read before, some of them, 10 years, I'll probably bust out Jeffrey Gitomer's Little Red Book of Selling. That was the first book I got of his, and it was given to me by a CEO way back in, that was 2004. So when I got laid off of that tech firm, this guy, Carl, was the former president of that tech firm. He had left a year or so before. He ended up in Austin. Even though he was from New England, he ended up as the CEO of a startup in Austin. And so before my severance was done, I had a 6-week severance. Before that was even up, he hired me at that startup in Austin. And so he ran across Jeffrey Gitomer's book, The Little Red Book of Selling. That was 2004. He bought it for everybody on the sales team. So I read that, and I've gone through that a couple times, but 14 years. It's been 14 years since I first got that book. So as I read that again, and it was great having Jeffrey on the sales podcast. That was a lot of fun. So I've been able to interview some of my idols, right? Anthony Parinello, Selling DeVito, Tom Hopkins, Jeffrey Gitomer. A new idol of mine, and I've done a book review on his already, is Orrin Claff, Pitch Anything. But again, going through those books again, I went through Orrin's book again. The first time I read that was like 2011. And so I had a newfound appreciation for it. So by all means, check out the latest and greatest. But what I'm discovering is what we think is the latest and greatest is really closely tied and deeply rooted to these old school traditional books. I'll probably review Claude Hopkins' Scientific Advertising. I reread that on my iPad during this trip. And I'm reading him, and I'm going, man, all these guys I thought were like the latest and greatest and so smart, they're just regurgitating Claude Hopkins. And I was reminded of Claude Hopkins, but as I was reading Ogilvy, Ogilvy was quoting Claude Hopkins because Claude Hopkins came way before even Ogilvy. And Ogilvy's are great. So, I just tell you this to help keep you grounded. Okay? Like I said, by all means, if you have a knack and the aptitude and the ability and the time and the energy to stay on that leading edge, even bleeding edge, then fine. Right? You can maybe corner the market a little bit, cut off a little piece for yourself because you're early to the game of applying technology. Maybe you were early with Facebook groups or Facebook pages or Facebook advertising. All that's changing right now. People that put too much emphasis on Facebook pages 5 years ago, a lot of them went out of business when Facebook changed. Now, Facebook is changing with this whole Cambridge Analytica stuff, changing their privacy, and literally overnight they're changing some of their policies on advertising. They've announced another thing that's coming out next month, and something else they're changing. They're giving you 6 months to adapt. So that's the problem with the latest and greatest. Too many times people think like there's never been anything like this, and they're just going to corner the market and stay there forever, and nothing is forever. So by all means, embrace it if you have the time and the ability and the aptitude and the money. But if you stay grounded in the fundamentals, like I'll cover here in Ogilvy's book, I think you'll always be all right. And, maybe you won't have as much success, but you'll have much less stress and you'll have a lot more time. So maybe that is how we can redefine success. And so in that case, you'll have a lot more success. All right? It's kind of crazy. how things bounce around. And I've been pulling out some of the lines from him and sharing them on memes and stuff. But right here from the forward, the very first thing I underline is, when people aren't having any fun, they seldom produce good work. So if you have a staff, keep that in mind. And I'm tough on this. I know I'm hard on my people. Maybe I have a little bit too much Steve Jobs in me. And I'm working on that. I know it. I do like to have fun. When we're at conferences and stuff, we have a lot of fun. But when there's work to be done, I can sit and work, 12, 14, 20 hours a day for days and weeks at a time if work has to get done. And I need to realize, and I understand intellectually that my staff, the company is not theirs. It's not their baby. And so they're not going to be as fired up and passionate. If you find someone that is that fired up and passionate, by all means, keep them. Do everything you can to keep them. But make sure you're having fun. Make sure your people are having fun. That better culture is going to help you grow. Ogilvy said, people are more productive when they drink. I find if I drink 2 or 3 brandies, I am better able to write. Now, again, of course, he's writing this book, in the 50s. So this was published in 1963. So he's writing this in the late 50s, early 60s. I don't know how long it took him to write it, but obviously he was talking about his success up to that point, which was came to fruition in the 50s. So, 60, 70 years ago now we're getting into, it was a different world. You could have that 3 martini lunch. Now that's frowned upon. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. Maybe we should drink more. I don't know. People are pretty dang uptight. They're pounding Red Bulls and smoking, and I don't know what else. Maybe they need a drink. We'll talk about that later. But it's funny that he talks about that. I don't know that I'm a better writer when I drink. I like to stay pretty focused and clear-headed. But I will have a beer every now and then when I'm pounding out something. Another of his quotes is, pay people peanuts and you get monkeys. That is so true. And in sales, if you mess with your people's pay, you deserve what you get, which is a hot, fiery, painful death. I've mentioned before, I was interviewed the other day, and I said, people don't quit jobs. They don't quit companies. They quit people. They quit managers. And in sales, you should be happy that your salespeople are making more money than you. You want a bunch of super successful, well-paid salespeople, because salespeople are coin operated. And it goes for your whole staff. Henry Ford, way back in the day, when the prevailing wage was $3.50 a day, he was paying $5 a day. So whatever that math is, right? It's almost 50% more that he was paying his people. He didn't have to. He didn't need the government to regulate. He didn't need the government to pass a minimum wage for him to pay more than the prevailing rate. Smart businessmen, smart business people do what's right. And they know if they take care of their people will take care of them. So pay your people what you can. Okay? Pay them more, and you're going to be rewarded. Another quote of his is 99% of advertising doesn't sell much of anything to anyone. And that's as true today as ever, even with the digital marketing and the insight and the custom audiences and access we have with the digital marketing, Google Display Networks, YouTube, Facebook. You're still testing things. People, there's still ad fatigue. People get tired of seeing it and they stop clicking. People still struggle with creating a powerful message. And I had to reiterate that in my talk yesterday at SuccessCon, and then I was leading a hot seat. You need to deliver a powerful message in a powerful manner. Yes, you have the analytics. Yes, you can segment and find the left-handed, blue-eyed, yoga instructors that also like red wine and are vegans. Okay, great. But you still need to have a message for those people. But why not just deliver a powerful message? Come up with that resounding, attention-grabbing headline that'll resonate with the spouse of that left-handed vegan, with the parents of that left-handed vegan, with the children of that left-handed vegan. Okay, and I was mentioning that yesterday to a guy. Said Disney is pretty smart. right? Kind of insidious. They don't have to advertise to the parents. They just have to advertise to the kids. And the kids will wear the butts out on their parents. And the parents say, fine, I'll get you the Mickey Mouse ears. Fine, I'll take you to Disneyland. So if you can deliver a powerful message to the powerful in a powerful manner, it'll find its way out there. It'll find the right people. So the kids are the right people. They just don't have the money. But they'll bring the message to the right people that have the money. So what's your message? Okay, make sure your advertising is selling something. So I love some of the things here. He said, leaders grasp nettles. So I had to look up nettles, and it's like a painful thingamabob. Actually, I'm forgetting now. I don't remember if it's like a bug or if it's I think it's like a sharp, thorny sort of stick. But the point is, leaders do the painful things. They do the hard, right things. They'll grab the pointy end, the bitey, fanged, poisonous thing that's threatening their business, their livelihood. They'll grab it and take the pain, endure the pain for their business. I've always said entrepreneurs, it's a lot like being a parent, and watching my wife, raise 7 children, seeing her nurse every one of them for over a year, seeing how she worries when they're sick, how she worries when they're not home on time or hasn't heard from them, seeing how she has done that, stayed up late, with a sick kid with a fever. We just had my 10-year-old, just before I left for India, poor thing, she was sick with a fever for 7 days. It ended up being like 9 days. But we didn't know what it was for 7 days. She took her to the doctor 3 times. And so went to the emergency clinic once, went to our regular doctor once, but got the physician's assistant, not the doctor. And then she called and said, I want the doctor. Okay, we've known this doctor for 13 years. She diagnosed our now 13-year-old when she turned 3 in the hospital with an undiagnosed appendicitis, spent 15 days in the hospital. So I saw my wife with Mary Claire back then, and then seeing her with Ella, and the doctor right away go, oh yeah, she has mono. So then we knew, okay, she's uncomfortable, but she's not dying. It's no crazy thing. It's got to run its course. So we were able to relax, and I was about to cancel my trip to India. I mean, she was so sick for so long. I mean, 100 plus up to 103-degree fever ended up, being 9 days. But once we knew what it was, then it was all right. But my wife was a wreck, but seeing how she is with her children, that's how I've been with my business. I've had sleepless nights. I've had months of sleepless nights and worry and, you're caring about this business. You're nurturing it. You're giving it your time, your energy, your focus. So I get it. Like it says, leaders grasp nettles. I had to do hard things, didn't have the staff, or had to fire somebody, or people just, hey, the day ended. They had to go back to their life. Fine. I would pick it up and run with it. I mean, many, working till midnight, waking up at 4 a.m., not because I wanted to, just without an alarm, because I'm worried, anxious, keep going. Grabbing that nettle. That's what leaders do. Next he says, don't keep a dog and bark yourself. So, if you hire somebody to do something, let them do the job. It's better to have 2 or 3 people that are 80% as good as you doing the work than you trying to do 100% of the work of 3 people. Okay, so don't hire a dog. Don't keep a dog and bark yourself. Hire people who are better than you are. That really is the key. Great leaders are comfortable being around experts, surrounding themselves with experts. I'm always looking for great people. Now, I'm usually frustrated because I think they're great and they're not. But hey, great people are hard to find. So when you find them, like he says, you pay peanuts, get monkeys. So pay good people, good money, and you'll be okay. And this last one, you can't save souls in an empty church. You got this great message, you better start shouting it from the rooftop. You gotta fill the seats. He who has the biggest list wins. He who can spend the most money to acquire a customer wins. So you got to keep these things in mind as you're growing your business. Now, here's another one. Again, we're still just on the forward. That's what I'm saying. I could talk about this book for 12 hours. He says, I admire people with gentle manners who treat other people as human beings. I abhor quarrelsome people who wage paper warfare. I despise toadies who suck up to their bosses. They are generally the same people who bully their subordinates. As an Englishman interested in baseball, Ogilvy said, don't bunt, aim out of the park. Aim for the company of immortals. Pretty good, huh? Pretty good. Swing for the fences. And I noticed that, when I was playing golf. I don't play as much anymore, but still, every now and then, when I try to baby things, when I try to finesse it, when I'm in between clubs and kind of try to do a smooth, easy swing instead of getting after it, it's usually when I get in trouble. Now, yes, you can overswing in golf, like everything. There's two sides to every coin. Tastes great, less filling. I get it. But in general, so maybe I don't want to do a full 100% swing. Maybe I do a 99% swing. Okay, but it's better than doing an 89% swing and messing things up. So aim high, right? Have big, lofty goals and get after it. So that's why, like I said, I love this book. He does give a little explanation in the beginning. He says if he were writing it today, because it went through multiple printings. So he says maybe if he rewrote it would be less indiscreet, less boastful, and less didactic. But you know what? I like it. I like it the way it is. He does give a couple of examples of how he would modify some rules, things that he lived by, because he admitted, things evolve over time. But still, there was only a couple of things he said he would change after all that time, which means these things are timeless. And like I said, he's referencing Claude Hopkins. So this is going back nearly 100 years. And these fundamentals still apply. Because at the end of the day, there's a human being at the other end of that smartphone, tablet, laptop, desktop. Okay, there's a human at the other end of the magazine, newspaper reading. There's a human being at the other end of the TV screen, of the radio. So remember that there's a human, and I think you'll be fine. Right to that human being. It was kind of funny. He said there was Fortune published an article about me entitled it, Is David Ogilvy a Genius? He said, I asked my lawyer to sue the editor for the question mark. So, he had a good sense of humor, but he admitted he worked obsessively to create strong cultures. He understood the importance of that, and I already mentioned. And he says, the common characteristic of success is the deliberate creation of a corporate culture. Now, he admits he didn't necessarily do that intentionally, but he understands now the importance of this culture. And he created it by default. He created it intuitively. So if your goal is to build something big, make sure your culture works. And you know what? And I've seen companies say they have a mission, say they have values, but it's usually just niceties. It's things they put on paper that look good printed on a wall. But you better believe it and live it and bleed it. And I think too few do. I think too few people have standards. I think too few people have, values that they would literally die for. So stop chasing the almighty dollar. Figure out what it is you would die for, and then make that your mantra, and then hire people that fit that. And, I'm telling this to sales managers all the time. When you're hiring people, salespeople, so many times managers will hire a salesperson for their Rolodex and for their experience. And those are terrible. Just like a mutual fund, past performance is no guarantee of future results. You need to hire for chemistry, for fit. You can train the skills. If you've got a good sales training program, you can make them very effective very fast. I don't know, maybe you put them in the Make Every Sale course or join the Inner Circle. or bring me on for 90 days to help sort those things out and help train your people and implement a repeatable process. But if you've got to have these processes in place, you've got to have the right people. Because if you're clear on your values, you're clear on your culture, and you hire people clearly that understand that and are clearly and obviously a fit, then things are going to work out just fine. Yes, it may take you a little bit longer to train them, okay? But because they're less experienced, you can hire them for less. And they're not going to come in and sabotage everything, come in acting like a diva and just totally mess up the vibe, and then the culture's gone, and then the company's gone. So understand what it is you stand for, okay? Like he says, we do our damnedest to make it a nice place to work. We put this first. We treat our people like human beings. We help them when they are in trouble with their jobs, with illness, with alcoholism, and so on. Okay? We help them make the best of their talents, investing an awful lot of time and money in training like a teaching hospital. So our system of management is singularly democratic. We don't like hierarchical bureaucracy or rigid pecking orders. We give our executives an extraordinary degree of freedom and independence. We like people with gentle manners. Okay, our New York office gives an annual award for professionalism combined with civility, and that's in italics. Civility. We like people who are honest in arguments, honest with clients, and above all, honest with consumers. We admire people who work hard, who are objective and thorough. We detest office politicians, toadies, bullies, and pompous asses. We abhor ruthlessness. The way up our ladder is open to everybody. So even back then, he was talking about, he was not prejudiced. So he paid people according to their production, right, and let them rise up. So are you creating that in your own company? Okay, so, I haven't even gotten to his advice on advertising and marketing. This is how he starts. So it shows how important it is to have the right fit, have the right culture. Because if you have that straight, you're going to get the right people. Okay? You're going to get the right people. I love, his emphasis on being honest. Too many advertising people, too many salespeople. There's this stigma out there that, how do you know a salesperson's lying? Their lips are moving. And then salespeople say the same thing. How do you know the customer's lying? His lips are moving. Well, there's no trust on either side. So if you know that going in, you need to address that right up front. Great salespeople don't overcome objections. We anticipate them and we defeat them before they even come up. So if you know there's the stigma in your industry that honesty is an issue, and you can't just say, hey, we're honest. It's like somebody saying, oh, you can trust me. I'm a Christian. As soon as somebody tells me that, I'm out the door. The worst beatings I've taken in business is from so-called Christians. Okay? You can't say, oh, I'm honest. Oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm trustworthy. You can't say our service is what separates us. The only way I know you have good service after the sale is if I give you my money. Once you have my money, I'm hosed. All right? I'm at your mercy. I need to know it ahead of time. How do I do that? Testimonials, referrals, case studies. Okay? But if you know there's an issue with trust, you need to address it ahead of time. Okay? Like he says, he gives recommendations to his clients without regard to our own interest. And he gave examples of doing deals with companies that he didn't make any money. But it was the right thing for the customer, and he always made sure he did the right thing. And you know what? He made out just fine. Okay? We try to sell our clients products without offending the mores of the countries where we do business. We attach importance to discretion. Okay? So without offending. It seems nowadays, especially in the online space, there's a race to the bottom. Who can drop the most F-bombs in a Facebook Live or an ad? Richard Pryor, he was a great, funny comedian. He was a potty mouth. And Bill Cosby, actually, we know he's in a lot of trouble now, but he was very successful for many years. And he was clean, and he talked about how, it took more energy, more creativity to have a clean act than a potty mouth act. Look at the, Jeff Foxworthy and those guys. Jeff Foxworthy, Blue Collar Comedy Tour, Jeff Foxworthy, he's clean, and he's had a great run. So, yes, if your audience is rude and crude, all right, go after them. But most aren't. Even if they are rude and crude, you can probably still sell and be clean or be less rude and crude. But I do appreciate, him talking about that. He says, we have an infuriating habit of divine discontent with our performance. It is an antidote to smugness. As soon as you get comfortable, as soon as you think you've made it, you're in trouble. I remember seeing someone I know got a license plate, said, I've made it. And as soon as they got that license plate, the industry changed, the market changed here in SoCal, and they closed their business. And I was like, why would you ever think you've made it? I'm my own worst critic. Hopefully you are too. That's why we're our own worst advisors. I've got meetings set here at this conference in San Diego with people that I know, like, and trust, seeking their guidance, seeking their input. How do I make the big changes for big growth that I want to do moving forward? So, nobody's impervious to this. We call it mentors, mentoring mentors. So seek good advice, but and again, it's a balancing act. You have to be hard on yourself, so you keep pushing, but you also need to stop and smell the roses. So you need to appreciate, both how far you've come while understanding you still have a long way to go. Okay? So just don't be smug. Our far-flung enterprise is held together by a network of personal friendships. Are you friends with your staff, with your partners? Do you actually enjoy each other's company? We like reports and correspondence to be well-written, easy to read, and short. I like that. We're revolted by pseudo-academic jargon, which you hear all the time. So like he says, through our maddening repetition, some of my obiter dicta has been woven into our culture. So his dictation, his didactic rules. Number one, and I've got a check mark next to this, is we sell or else. Amen. We sell or else. I've always said, marketing is just selling in print. You need to understand that. And I've been talking about that at this conference, in my session yesterday, talking about the importance. Now, there's my dog barking as my daughter's boyfriend shows up. One of the issues, the risks of working from home. But hey, the show must go on. But it's on about how you got to sell. Everything is sales. Your headline is sales. Your call to action, the button, is it a learn more? Is it get the video? Is it in red? Is it all caps? Is there an exclamation point? All those things are little minute selling points. That's why I'm saying you must make every sale. To make any sale, you must make every sale. So Ogilvy understood this. So it's no accident, it's no coincidence that he's the great legend. He was the super successful businessman because he understood the importance of sales. So do you understand the importance of sales? So while there are many good sessions at this conference talking about SMS marketing, Facebook marketing, algorithms, tracking pixels, all these things that help you grow your business and sell, it's all about selling. And I've had this for many years in my presentation. You don't have a traffic problem. Traffic's abundant. Traffic can be bought. Okay? You have a conversion problem. You need to be converting your tire kickers, your window shoppers, your passive browsers and visitors. You must convert them into entities, known human beings with whom you can build a relationship and bond and connect with them. Preferably multimedia, multi-touch. Okay, get their address. That's why on my homepage, I've got a pop-up right now to get my book for a penny. So as soon as you give me your name and email, it takes you to another page. So now I can drip on you because there's always that cart abandonment. People are like, oh, they changed their mind. But now if you buy the book for a penny and you pay the shipping and handling, now I have your email, your full name, your phone number, and your physical address. Okay? You can't opt out of direct mail. So if I want to send you a postcard, a Christmas card, an offer letter, you can opt out of my email. You can't opt out of direct mail. So the more ways you can connect and reach out and communicate with someone, the better. All right? So like he says, sell or die. Next he talks about you cannot bore people into buying your product. You can only interest them in buying it. So I love hearing this, because I've always quoted Dan Kennedy. He says the number one sin of marketing is being boring. Well, I would bet $1 to a donut that Dan Kennedy got this idea from David Ogilvy. Okay. We prefer the discipline of knowledge to the anarchy of ignorance. We pursue knowledge the way a pig pursues truffles. A blind pig can sometimes find truffles, but it helps to know that they grow in oak forests. So the discipline of knowledge. Now back then, things were a little different because it took longer to do the research. Now you have Google's keyword tool. You can buy programs like SEO Moz or SEM Rush, things like that. And you can find a lot of information quickly. But the main thing is you do have to still find that information. When I work with a new client, I'm investigating them. I'm a journalist, right? I'm CSI. I'm a forensics guy, diving into their business, their history, what makes them tick, what's their origin story. Then I can build their ads. Then I can build their voicemail scripts, their emails, their free reports. But you got to dive in. Number 4 here, he says, we hire gentlemen with brains. So it goes back to that culture, right? He wants nice people. He wants this friendly culture, but he wants smart people. All right. And if you read a book a week on any topic, you read 52 books in a year, you're going to be pretty dang smart in that field. And really, you just got to stay one chapter ahead, just like a professor in college, right? As long as you're one chapter ahead of the students, then you're the expert. And that may feel inauthentic, but think about it. If you had to teach a class twice a week, and you read one chapter ahead, and you taught that for a semester, you taught it for a full year. When you go back the next year to reteach it and you reread it, you're now one book ahead, and now you're on your second iteration of that book. You do that 3 or 4 or 5 years, you're going to get pretty good at that subject, at that topic, on that book. So that's how this is in business and in marketing and sales. Keep doing it over and over and over again. It's the repetition that brings about the mastery. When the pressure's on, you don't rise to your abilities, you shrink, you revert to your training. So how committed are you to learning and mastering this? Something I've quoted from him for years and years and years, and I heard this through Roy Williams, the Wizard of Ads, but as he was quoting Ogilvy, he says, the consumer is not a moron, she is your wife. Don't insult her intelligence. So how are you treating prospects in your ads, in your communication, in your presentations, in your one-on-one dialogue? Are you talking down to them? Okay, just because you know more about your subject doesn't mean that the person you're dealing with is an idiot. They may be ignorant, okay, which means they are just uneducated on the topic. It doesn't mean they are stupid. Now, because we've dumbed down our intelligence and our schooling in this country, we don't know the difference between ignorance and stupidity. People they take the word ignorant as being an insult. Of course, you can use it that way. But if somebody is ignorant on a topic, it doesn't mean they're dumb. So, and just because you know more about a computer or a smartphone or a manufacturing process doesn't mean you're all wise and knowing. You just have a deep knowledge on a very narrow topic. Okay? So don't treat them like a moron. He says only first-class business, and that in a first-class way. Never run an advertisement you would not want your own family to see. So keep that in mind. Unless your campaign contains a big idea in capital letters, it will pass like a ship in the night. He says, I doubt if more than one campaign in 100 contains a big idea. I'm supposed to be one of the more fertile inventors of big ideas, but in my long career, I have not had more than 20. So, like you said, most advertising sells very little to anyone or something like that, right? So you're just throwing stuff out there, throwing stuff against the wall, hoping it sticks. And that's why, you've heard many copywriters, I've probably mentioned it, we'll spend 80% of our time on the headline, on the subject. We're trying to get that big idea, trying to convey what works. And it may be Ogilvy, I think it is in this book, and they all kind of run together, but I think he was saying a subject he came up with, it was his 16th that he had written. And he had it was the last of the 16. And he did it almost on a whim, almost didn't go with it, but he ended up having to go with it, and that was the winner. So 16 headlines. So that's the big idea. Because what's the purpose of the headline? Is to get people to read the first sentence. What's the purpose of the first sentence? To get them to read the second sentence. Right? To warm them up, to convey a message, to create a feeling so they take the next step. That's why I say you got to make any sale, you got to make every sale. Okay? And finally on these 9 points, he says, search all the parks in all your cities. You'll find no statues of committees. So even though he had a democracy, he had no problem calling the shots. And he talked about later in the book how when they would do a big pitch, a big presentation, he liked to give them. Now, he also trained his people, so they were good and able to give them, so they could grow. He couldn't give everything. But he said when he could, he would give the presentation. And he said, A, it kept him sharp. B, he liked to lead by example, show the others how it's done. C, he liked to show the customers, his clients, that he was still engaged. Because that's what happens, as you build a big entity, it's easy to get lost in the minutia, and you get out of doing the thing that you're famous for doing. So he liked to stay sharp and stay involved. So search all the parks in all your cities. You'll find no statues of committees. So do not be afraid to call the shots, okay, to make the hard calls, to grasp the nettles. That's basically what he's saying there. So now I love how he gets into really hammering home the benefits of direct response. Again, this has been Dan Kennedy's world all along. The beauty of direct response is that how effective it is. Yes, it costs money. It takes a little bit more time. But, he's saying if all advertisers were to follow the example of their direct response brethren, they would sell more. And that's in italics. Sell. Every copywriter should start his or her career by spending 2 years in direct response. So direct response is sending mail to somebody's house, or creating an ad with a coupon or something that they have to cut and mail out, take a specific action, versus just branding. Hey, look at our ads. Hey, there's the Goodyear blimp. Oh, I feel better about Goodyear. 2 years from now when I need tires, hopefully I'll remember to get Goodyear. Okay, that's a branding campaign. Direct response is like it says. The ad runs and it says, call now. Call and get free weather stripping, free removal. I've talked about this, Mesa Garage. I live in an HOA. We can't have fancy garage doors. But I know Mesa Garage, and I haven't even listened to AM talk radio in years. But that guy advertised so much. Now he's on TV as well. But he talks about, free delivery, free removal, free weather stripping. If you call now, if you're one of the next 11, blah, blah, blah. So he's done such a great job of staying consistent and driving home his point. He understands the number one job of a business owner is to market your business. Okay? So direct response. You need to spend some time on that as well. You need to understand it. You need to understand that you build a brand through consistently over-delivering to your clients. That's how you build a brand. Okay, so understand who your audience is, who your customers are, Keep them happy. Keep them happy by hiring good people that understand your culture. They'll do the right thing by the customer. Hire people with brains and civility. And you see how all this builds on one another. Okay, so just understand where all this is going. So he talked about how price discounts are going to kill you. That's one of the things I've got going on with Infusionsoft. Even though they say they'll stop, they don't. They keep throwing out these deals. It's a race to the bottom. They're alienating their partners. They're pissing off their partners. Okay, and they're cheapening their brand. Conversely, you look at like Entreport, they stand their ground on pricing. You look at HubSpot, they stand their ground on pricing. HubSpot's a multi-billion-dollar company now, successful IPO, and Infusionsoft, they're laying people off. I mean, it's crazy. We talked about that. Where is this company now that started their price discounts? It's as dead as a doornail. So, if you lead by price, if you sell by price, you're going to die by price. Okay, it says deals don't build the kind of indestructible image, which is the only thing that can make your brand part of the fabric of life. So what are you doing to make your business, your brand, the fabric of life? I don't think people think like that. He says price off deals are a drug. Okay. When you have clients that haggle over your compensation, he says they are looking through the wrong end of the telescope. No manufacturer ever got rich by underpaying his agency. That's where the pay peanuts, you get monkeys comes from. So don't let your customers beat you down on your price. You need to understand the value of what you offer. And so you got to sell yourself first. You're your first customer. Your customer buys confidence. Zig Ziglar always said that. Selling is a transference of a feeling. That feeling is confidence. Are you confident in the value you bring so you can stand your ground on pricing? Because I guarantee you, if you let your customers beat you down on price, you're going to begrudge them. You're going to regret taking on the account. You're not going to do a good job. And even the discounted rate that you offer, your customer will still say you're not worth even that. Charge full price. Deliver full service. Everyone's going to be better off for it. Okay. Now he says, if I had not spent 5 years selling kitchen stoves door to door, he wouldn't have been as successful. He said, once a salesman, always a salesman. That's how he got started, and he had to stand his price on those products, right? So learn how to say. You see how he keeps repeating this? We're only on page 21. Sell, sell, sell. Direct response, sell. Stand your guard on price. Don't let people cut you down on the fees you charge. You need income to keep the doors open. I think too many people don't understand that. The fourth problem, so I'm kind of skipping around a little bit, but he says is that advertising agencies still waste their clients' money repeating the same mistakes. You need to learn from your own mistakes, but learn from the mistakes of your competitors as well. Okay, if you see things aren't working, and you can monitor it, because if an ad is continuing to run, then you know it's working. If you see an ad stop and start, or start and stop, then learn from them. Okay, what is the reason for their failure? To study experience? Is it that advertising does not attract inquiring minds? Is it that any kind of scientific method is beyond their grasp? You have these scientific methods. It's there. And you know what? If that's not your forte, where your aptitude is, then again, hire smart people to help you. But you've got to dive into the numbers, because the numbers don't lie. And another thing people may not realize about Ogilvy is that he started his career at Princeton with Dr. Gallup, the Gallup polls. So he spent many years, like he says, looking at the creative function through the objective eyes of a researcher. So he understood the science behind this, behind connecting with people. So he came up with, I don't know if I can go through all these, 11 points, lessons that he learned. So, talking about the science of this, it says if you have a modicum of talent and know which techniques work at the cash register, you will go a long way. Too many people are looking for that magic. You know, and in my talk yesterday, I was covering the science of selling. You know, everybody thinks, oh, the art of the close. And yes, there is some finesse in there, but selling is very prescriptive because human beings are very predictable. Just like your keypad, you know, your keyboard on your computer. Press a certain key, see the function happen on the computer. Humans are the same way. Once you understand that, you're going to go a long ways. Okay, the temptation to entertain instead of selling is contagious. How many times have we seen Super Bowl ads, back especially in the .com era, these really funny, entertaining ads that didn't sell a dang thing? Roy Williams talked about the Yo Quiero Taco Bell ads. It sold more chihuahuas than tacos. They're very creative. They were entertaining, but did it move the needle? So stop worrying about being cute and worry about being effective. Okay. The difference between one advertisement and another when measured in terms of sales can be as much as 19 to 1. Yep. So you're always, you know, I tell people, have a good ad and run with it, right? Keep going. But you should always be trying to beat your best performing ad. And when you do things like Facebook advertising, things like that, you have to create multiple ads. Some of the smartest people I know, they say you need to create 10 ads and rotate them every 3 days. That way you can continue using that ad for a longer period of time. But if you have one ad, you run it for 30 straight days, by day 3 or 4, people are going to be tired of seeing it. Ad fatigue is a real thing. And I can get into the whole reticular activation and Broca's area in the brain and blah, blah, blah. But just trust me. I mean, you've seen this before. You drive the same route to work. You don't notice any of the billboards until there's a new billboard. But I bet if I asked 100 of you, you know, you could probably... You don't even know how many billboards you pass, first of all. Second of all, you probably don't know what any of them say. If I asked you to really pinpoint, tell me, you know, what billboard said, you know, exit number 21 on your way to work. You couldn't tell me because you see it over and over again. So always be trying to beat your best performing ad. You know, it pays to study the product before writing your advertisements. Well, yeah, hello, no duh. If you watched Mel Gibson at What Women Want, you know, he was an advertising guy. So, the thing that gave him the insight, he was home, you know, putting on pantyhose, curling his hair, painting his toenails, and, you know, he fell in the tub with a curling iron or something, and that electrocuted him and gave him that insight. He could hear what women were saying or what they were thinking. So how well do you know the product? And that's why coming in having an outsider come in and look, we see things with fresh eyes, things that you take for granted, things that you just assume everybody knows, and they don't. It's that fresh eyes can bring out a new angle that can literally be that 19 to 1 difference. The key to success is to promise the consumer a benefit, like better flavor, whiter wash, more miles per gallon, a better complexion. The function of most advertising is not to persuade people to try your product, but persuade them to use it more often than other brands in their repertoire. Thank you, Andrew Ehrenberg. And that's true, right? You don't want them to just try it. I don't want you to dabble. Now, unless you have this really great, awesome product. That's where I learned about frozen custard. And again, it was Roy Williams. He had a client up in the Midwest, like St. Louis or somewhere, and they had frozen custard. I never knew the difference, and once I did, oh my gosh. Every time I go back to Austin, I go with my mom to one place, and there's one couple in Austin, and there's one up in Georgetown, north of Austin, and frozen custard is unbelievable. But this company, they only had like $1,100, and they were asking Roy how to grow. And they're talking about radio and TV and blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, $1,100, that's all you've got. He says, here's what we're going to do. Because they said, look, our product is so good. If people taste it one time, they're a lifelong fan. And he's like, oh, really? So he tried the product. He's like, oh, yeah, this is really good. I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run an ad on the radio for a couple days. And it's basically, I think they did it all day, or maybe it was just a certain time. But he says, come by for free custard. No strings attached, right? And he said they had lines out the door. Lines, traffic wrapped around a drive-through. And they blew their numbers out forevermore after that. It gave them the money to grow because they had the fan base now and because people knew. So, again, there's always a counter, an exception to the rule. So these guys, he just got them to try it. But once they tried it, right, then they use their product more than any other. I would drive, and when we do go to Austin, we do drive for miles to go to this place. And we pass, I don't know how many Baskin Robbins, Dairy Queens, McDonald's soft serve. McDonald's will give you a $1 ice cream cone. So that may be fine for the kids, the little ones. But my wife and I, we're getting frozen custard. All right. So what are you doing to shift the habits of your customers for the long term? What works in one country almost always works in other countries. All right. So if you do sell in multiple countries, keep that in mind. Editors of magazines are better communicators than advertising people. Copy their techniques. You'll see how tight they keep things, how tight the headlines are. In one of my sessions, I've taught over the years, go look at Yahoo. Go look at National Enquirer. Okay? So look at Yahoo online. Look at USA Today online. See how tight their headlines are. Even in National Enquirer, it's crazy. I get it. But look, you can learn from their layout, and especially though the words that they use and how they use them and format them. That's a little secret there on your writing. Most campaigns are too complicated. Yep. They reflect a long list of objectives, try to reconcile the divergent views of too many executives. By attempting to cover too many things, they achieve nothing. Their advertisements look like the minutes of a committee. I see this, working with Infusionsoft and HubSpot. People think they've got to be so elaborate, so crazy, especially on their lead magnets, their free reports, the things they give away to convert the visitor into a contact. I covered this yesterday in my talk. The money is in the follow-up. Okay? Most people will request your free report and not read it. So what are you doing to ensure you get multimedia? Or you're getting their cell phones, so you can text them. Hey, what'd you think of the report? Hey, turn to page 3 to check this out. Hey, you missed something on page 18. Hey, point number 4 is fantastic. And then you can email them. Hey, let's dive a little bit deeper and see how this really works. Are you doing that? Probably not. But again, that's not complicated. It's a simple report and a simple follow-up sequence. 1 day apart, multimedia, if you can, just nudging them to go through and consume what you sent or contact you to do it for them, to take that load off of them. I've always said give away your best stuff for free up front. Scientific advertising, right? Claude Hopkins talks about that. Let the do-it-yourselfer go do it themselves, and they'll have the gratitude for you that you helped them. Okay? But for your ideal client, they'll see how hard it is. They'll know that you're the expert because you wrote that detailed report, that detailed guide, and then they'll gladly pay you to do it for them because they don't want to do it, because now they see just how intricate and complex and involved it is. They don't want to do it. So give away your best stuff for free up front, right? Keep that simple. Don't let men write advertising for products which are bought by women. This one I might take a little umbrage at, or maybe disagree. I mean, I've helped women sell products, so I don't know. But hey, like I say, he was writing this in the 50s and 60s. Although this update is from 1988. So, hey, he's a smart man, so run with that. I'll defer to him for now, but I do have women clients I've helped make a lot of money. And finally, good campaigns can run for many years without losing their selling power. My eye patch campaign for Hathaway shirts ran for 21 years. My campaign for Dove soap has been running for 31 years, and Dove is now the best seller. And he ends with, once a salesman, always a salesman. And I will end that there as well. And I'm only on page 23 of this book, which is 190 pages. Again, it's powerful. I dang near underline every single page. I underline something. Most pages I underlined a bunch. This is something you need to read over and over again. Do yourself a favor, stick with the classics for now. Make 2018, even 2019, the year and a half of classics, and you will be better off for it. If you don't have that much time and you want to bounce ideas off of me and other entrepreneurs affordably, please check out my Inner Circle. It is super affordable. You can go month to month. You can prepay for a year and get 2 months free. It's still led by me. It's weekly calls led by me. A private Facebook group. You ask questions. I answer them. It's my push this year. I just brought on an ad guy to help me with some of the more technical things that I don't want to do. So I'm offloading more and more things, building up a better team, bringing on a HubSpot design expert, because the push is to expand the Sales Whisperer offerings. So as this grows, you'll have less access to me. You join now, it's dang near like private coaching. So visit thesaleswhisperer.com. You'll see the products page, the product navigation at the top. There's the Make Every Sale course and the Inner Circle. When you join the Inner Circle, you get the Make Every Sale program, okay? But if you join the Make Every Sale, you just get the on-demand content. So having the interaction, I think, is what's going to help you grow more faster, all right? Sell more better. So as always, thanks for listening. Please leave a comment. Give us a 5-star review. Please subscribe to the podcast. When you subscribe, it just helps the numbers go up. And the more this bubbles up, the more people can see it, the more I can help for free. All right, by you subscribing and leaving reviews and comments and engaging. All right. So thanks for listening. Now go sell something.